Alrighty, we shall continue with our Community and Natural Environment Committee meeting, and we're up to item 10 with the Disability Action Plan update, please. You okay?
Ko Michelle Rivers toko ingoa. My name. Michelle Rivers. I am the Disability and Older Persons Advisor. The current Disability Policy Action Plan was adopted at the Community and Natural Environment Committee meeting on the 30th of August 2022. Today's report is an update on actions completed in the last 12 months. These are some highlights from this year I would like to share. Firstly, the number of barrier-free accessibility audits that have been completed in the last year. There have been 6 parks completed, which includes Memorial Park, the FMG Stadium, the zoo, our aquatics facilities. There have also been accessible advice provided by Barrier Free for our Transport Centre rejuvenation and Waikato Regional Theatre. There's also been advice provided for mobility car parks for Seddon Park, Porritt Stadium and the Magical Bridge Playground. All these audits support Council in ensuring our facilities are accessible for all. Another highlight has been an increase in Council teams considering the needs of our disability community and reaching out to me for advice and connection with my networks. I am also seeing accessibility considerations coming in at the start of projects rather than as an afterthought. This shows a positive change in Council's focus and acknowledgement of the needs of our diverse community. The organisation has made great progress with upskilling through disability awareness and New Zealand Sign Language training. A personal highlight for me has been you as elected members engaging in New Zealand Sign Language training recently. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there any questions? No. Thank you. Yep, definitely. So Councillor Sarah will move and Ollie to second. Thank you.
So much to the team for this work and this report. It's really encouraging to see the number of actions completed, and all of these do really make a big difference to people's lives. I walked out of the long-term plan meeting the other day and met someone who is a wheelchair user, and she said she was so excited. It's not actually in one of the actions here that I saw. The library has put in adjustable tables in all of the libraries so that people with wheelchairs can sit at the tables and use them at the libraries, and that was a really meaningful and impactful action. And so just want to say really appreciate the work that we are doing to ensure all of our facilities are accessible to people. And also, thank you very much for the opportunity to learn some sign language. That was excellent, so appreciate that too. Yeah.
Thank you. Mangai Ollie?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I support Councillor Sarah's comments. I think it's not until you're on the pushing a wheelchair that you realise the importance of accessibility, and particularly for accessibility for these council's facilities, so disability community can enjoy them as well. It's good work.
And I just wanted to quickly acknowledge Councillor Louise, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but just her work in our disability sector and her advocacy as well. Sarah, did you have anything else to add? Or? Cool. We shall go to the vote with a show of hands. All those in favour?
The motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you. Item 11, our late report.
Kia ora koutou, ko Maria Tukuingoa. Most of you know I'm Maria, I'm the Parks and Recreation Unit Director here at Council. And I do have Rosh Asprey in the gallery, who is our project manager on this particular project. So unfortunately I need to start this morning to note some corrections. This was a late report, finalised during a busy week last week. So paragraph 3B, the new contract sum should read 2757709. Paragraph 14 should read the remaining balance 1.465 million. And then paragraph 31, 4.165 million should be the total budget. So, as you know, councillors, the demolition of Founders Theatre is well underway, and there have been 2 executive updates signalling the finding of additional asbestos that were able to be managed within the original $2.7 million Stage 1 allocation budget. Despite the comprehensive pre-demo asbestos surveys, unfortunately the latest finds have been unprecedented and unexpected in unexpected places. So we do need to reduce the scope for Stage 2 to cover the costs associated with these finds. It is worth noting that staff have been working very hard with the contractors, WorkSafe and independent consultants to keep these costs to a minimum while making sure that safety and the safe removal of the asbestos material can be managed in the most cost-effective and safe way. I think I'll leave the report, the rest of the report there and open for questions.
Thank you, Maria. Mangaioli?
Thanks, Maria. Was point 18, was that a correction as well? Contingencies of 382 million?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that's going to blow the budget right there. Okay, noted. Yeah.
Yes.
Anything else to come?
So, based on the finds that what we found during the demo phase, the project team have worked really hard with the contractor to go, well, how far through are we and what's left? They've concluded that the largest remaining unknown is in the basement, so we don't know what might be found encapsulated in the concrete, and hence why we're recommending a just over $400,000 contingency to deal with the remaining works.
So just, no, note your corrections that you highlighted at the beginning. So risk of the total budget of the project being exceeded?
Very low.
And what would reinstatement look like for Stage 2?
So
Some grass seed?
there is a concept plan, the basic development attachment 3. So a grassed area, a refurbishment of the Dame Hilda Ross fountain, and potentially some path connections in accordance with the West Down Belt Master Plan. It does leave the site for any future development opportunities.
No further questions at this stage?
Mayor Paula?
So looking at the approved development concept on page, whatever this is, page 10 of the report, so some of those elements are now to be removed because of the reduced cost. Which, can you be specific about? Did I miss somewhere when I was reading it? Where?
So the difference between what was the approved concept and what will now be achieved is essentially the differences shown in attachment 1 and attachment 3. The only remaining feature will be the Dame Hilda Ross fountain and potentially some path connections.
Okay. I'm trying not to let my body language show exactly how I feel about that. Can I ask then, in terms of 2, being the Dame Hilda Ross fountain, what determined your view that that should be the remaining piece of the park enhancement, and how much will it cost?
So that was always in the plan to refurbish the Dame Hilda Ross. It is believed that it is achievable within the budget that will be left. Obviously, council could direct us to look at other options. Sorry, the other point, Mayor Paula, is that that has been listed as heritage value under the recent plan change as well.
Just recently added?
Yeah.
On the basis of its current status or what it could be?
On the basis of its heritage value to the city. So whether it's repaired or not, it's been deemed to hold some heritage value.
I'd love to get some greater understanding about that. Is that the architectural design of it, the state of it, the naming of it? Because she is a magnificent historic citizen of our community, and we don't want to dismiss that. But what is it? A design that's particularly splendiferous and historic, or what's about it?
I can provide a little bit more information circulated after the meeting, but I do believe it's my understanding that it is the design and the nod to its time it was developed.
Okay. And so you don't think through cost efficiencies there's any way to get some of the other elements of the original park design, including some seating or anything?
Mayor Paula, what I would say in response to that is that paragraph 35 suggests that, we've got a lot of unknowns. We've got a large contingency sum of about $400,000. What we're presenting to you is the worst case scenario. If we don't need the contingency on the demo, we would then transfer that into the stage 2 and come back to you and update you on what exactly will be delivered. What I'm saying today, Mayor Paula, is based on what we know today, the worst case scenario is that we would get a grassed area with very minimal landscaping.
And one fountain.
Yes.
Okay. So the other question I have, I guess, is if on a different tack, if Founders had been repurposed, not to open up old wounds, but if as soon as somebody had touched the building for any kind of refitting or repurposing, the asbestos issue would have been exposed in there, right? And would have caused significant extra cost or concern.
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Did you find the question?
No, it was. Tim heard my question even.
I think, is that correct, is the question?
Yeah. I said, right, question mark. So would it cost them more?
So my recollection of the
Thanks, Tim, I
refurbishment
appreciate that.
plans, Mayor Paula, was that it was to include a re-roof, and in which case they would have found the same thing that we found during the demo process, which would have led to additional costs.
Okay, thank you.
There's quite a few online, so I'll go to Andrew first and then come back. Councillor Andrew?
Thank you, Chair Kesh. Right, so first question. So the original budget had 660K to remove the well transformer. The new budget is adding another 200K contingency on top of that. We've spent 138K already. Can we just leave it? Do we need to remove it? It's disconnected. There could be a big saving of just leaving it in place.
I'm going to ask Ross to come down if we're getting into some more specific project-related questions. So, so the well transformer, Councillor Biddett, has already been removed. Yeah, it was considered necessary to have an open park space without a giant transformer in the middle of it.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, just for clarity, those original costs, part of the project costs, included the removal of the well transformer. So that needed to go for the building to be demolished. So those costs have been sunk and have been incurred basically. The additional costs that you're seeing in the report relate to any potential asbestos that's found in the basement and the associated compliance costs with that. So we've added some contingency into that so that if there is more asbestos found, we need to then, basically the project will slow down, there'll need to be compliance, there'll need to be monitoring, and that is being built into that extra cost that you've seen in that estimate. Again, if it happens, then we will have the ability to use it. If it doesn't happen, that money goes to the stage 2.
Right, yeah. Okay, next question. So council staff time, where is that included in the budget?
So if you refer to attachment 4, there's 73,400 of internal charges, and that relates to consenting staff time procurement.
Right.
Internal costs.
Yeah. So is that on top of the budgets we've seen earlier, or it's included?
It's included.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. In point 20 and point 24, you mentioned based on information available at the time, or there was no record of this in council documents. Did the council have access to original construction drawings and specifications?
Yes.
And did that have any mention of asbestos products?
Yeah, through the chair, it certainly did, and we had a couple of, in the 90s we had some assessments done. There was asbestos found in certain areas. The old plans in the 60s also highlighted where there were asbestos elements that were picked up prior to the tender going through. So we used that information to inform the tender. We also then got a pre-demolition invasive survey done. So basically we tried to do as much as we physically could do before you knock the building down to find out what level of risks were there. We've found through this process, and particularly talking to the industry itself, we've got Yaka, these guys that do this for their living. We've also got Thomas Consultants who have been around the traps for a long time with asbestos monitoring. They've basically said, look, it's a very unusual building. When it was built, it was architecturally designed, but it was quite unusual. And what they're finding here, particularly in some of the more recent finds, is quite extraordinary. They wouldn't have expected that, which is unfortunate.
Right. Last question, was any asbestos found in the foyer extension?
We went into the foyer extension and went into the ceiling void. We didn't find any in there. There was a little bit in the staircase leading, depends on where you draw the line in terms of the foyer, but the older foyer had some asbestos panelling, not much of it. and then we went into the ceiling, didn't find any there, in the extension.
Right, thank you.
Maxine?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for your questions. And I join you in your disappointment about the basic park development. And note that part of that will mean, Maria, that the car park stays where it is. I wonder if you could talk us through that decision.
So yes, you're correct. So referring again to attachment 3, we have reduced the size of the car park there, but it is a positive in terms of that piece of car park will retain revenue for council, and also perhaps provide some hard stand car parking for events at H3 across the road.
Thank you. And am I correct in the assumption that that would be a part of the $6 all day car parking?
I'm not sure if it is in that area. I think it is, but we can clarify that, Councillor Maxine.
Okay, thank you. And I guess no, you won't have any idea of the revenue that it might create.
That was reported in a previous report, but off the top of my head, I can't remember the figure. Sorry, Councillor Maxine.
I think I've actually
And yeah, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, there is, last 3 years, there was 141,000 for that particular car park in revenue.
And I guess, being a car park isn't quite what our vision for that piece of green space is. At what point might that full vision be realised?
So at a point in time where there's funding available to realise it is the short answer, Councillor Maxine.
Cheers, thank you.
Councillor Emma?
Thank you, Chair Kish. Look, I'm aware of the alternative founders' proposals, which I and some other EM supported, included some potential revenue for advertising. If we fall short of the original vision of the park as it's currently noted in the report, have we explored the possibility of philanthropic funding or commercial partnerships or other advertising revenue opportunities for this area?
We haven't explored them in depth. My initial assessment would be that a project that was previously planned for by council possibly wouldn't be attractive to philanthropics unless there was a value add for them for the community. In terms of advertising, there is some nuancing in the Reserves Act that we would have to look at closely in terms of what may be possible there.
Okay, so what would we, I guess, need to do to enable that, or do you think there's
we can take a staff
there's enough
action
potential?
to report back on opportunities for revenue generation for that site in respect of advertising, again signalling that I don't think it's very likely.
Okay, yeah, I think that the stage itself could be a potential area that I would note that could be attractive for that. Thank you.
Councillor Sarah?
Thank you, Chair. My first question, just wanted to understand a little bit further the answer to Mayor Paula's question around what would have potentially been the impact on a project if we'd actually gone to renovating the building rather than demolishing it.
Look, it's hard. It's really hard to put a pin in that, Councillor Sarah. I mean, we do know that there would have been impacts. They would have found the same asbestos that we have found, and they would have had to deal with that. As you know, the proposal didn't get into the specifics of which walls they would be taking out and So, yeah, it's really hard to speculate there.
Okay.
But we do know the roof was requiring renewal, so and that's been a big lot of the unexpected cost.
Okay, thank you. In regard to the basic, I guess, park additions after the demolition is completed, I did touch on this earlier today, but are we working with the transport team to look at maximising opportunities around co-funding for connective paths?
Yes, we're always working with our friends in transport to see what we can leverage, Councillor Sarah, and you might remember not this LTP, but the previous one included our Parks Connections program that was going to be considered in tandem with the Waka Kotahi funding arrangements. So that's still ongoing.
Because if there's Boys Park, but then there's also Hinimoa Park, and there was the intention that there was a path, Kote Pacifica would support some path connections as well, and eventually the idea presumably would be that you can go to the Mill Street underpass and connect that whole suburb into town. So are we looking at opportunities beyond just Boys Park in terms of connecting paths if there is the ability to apply transport funding?
Absolutely, Councillor Sarah, hence my comment about any path connections would be developed in alignment with the West Town Belt Master Plan, which was developed by Transport, Parks and others, Waters.
Okay, thank you. And final question for now was in regard to funding for play spaces. We don't have as much as intended initially, but the long-term plan still has some funding. So where would you expect, in terms of the basic concept plan, where may a play space be located?
So it's indicated in the West Town Belt Master Plan in the section beyond where Founders sat as a possible location. As you'll also be aware, Councillor Sarah, your motion requires us to report back on that play space funding. We're intending to do that at the September committee.
Yeah. Okay, so it may be in that particular segment.
If council agree that that's a priority for the CBD play space development, then absolutely it could be in that space.
So okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ewan?
Yeah, thanks. First, a process question of governance, if I could. This late report and the inaccuracies that we've been advised of, just help me understand, is that then corrected in the report?
In the minutes, we note that. So the report is as stands, but you would have seen it flash onto the board earlier, the resolution changes. That is captured.
Right. Why wouldn't we have updated the report to reflect the known inaccuracies before the meeting?
Because it was already circulated and published online, and you can't stop people from having downloaded it. You get stuck between a rock and a hard place if somebody's already got it, which is why we make it really important if we have these errors to introduce them here and to note them in the minutes, because it means that we've got a record and can follow the path should somebody have gathered it, the wrong information at some point. So we try and capture and get it all in the right place, but it is never a perfect system.
All right, thank you. Question of staff, Maria, or your colleague, how much did we actually pay for the professional advice regarding the likelihood of asbestos in the building?
Through the chair, $2,400.
$2,400. $2,400. And is the company that gave us the advice, are they working at all on the project?
Good question too. So the way that the asbestos legislation works, companies specialise in surveys, pre-demolition surveys, and there's other companies that specialise in monitoring. So the company that we got in a local for the pre-demolition survey, they've done work for us in the past, and they do across the Waikato. So they basically did the pre-demolition. We've then got Thomas Consultants in as an independent, I guess they certify as the contract goes through the building. They're monitoring the air, they're monitoring things and checking off, yes, this area's been removed safely and you can carry on to the next step. I hope that answers your question. So it was different? Two different, yeah. There's a different one for the monitoring during the works, and there's the one that we got in to start off with, yes.
Okay. Staff have made some comment regarding if the alternative option with Founders had proceeded, they would have encountered the same problem. How certain are you that they would have had to have encountered the same problem, or could they not have come up with a construction workaround that could have retained the asbestos safely in place? And are you appropriately qualified to have landed on that assumption?
So perhaps I'll start and my colleague might finish the answer. So as I said before, my understanding of the renewal project was that a re-roof was anticipated. The roof sections are at the highest points of the building. And it might be helpful for Ross to talk you through what the fines were in a bit more detail, and then perhaps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's really important to know that the building itself was safe and made safe for public use. At the time when it was built in the 1960s, you know, asbestos was put into the ceiling cavity above the auditorium. Some of that was removed in the 90s and encapsulated. Depending on the future development of that building, if there was any development in that roof space itself, there may or may not have been the incurrence of those costs. They could have left it as is. If they didn't touch that roof area, you wouldn't then have to go down the track of safely removing it. In saying that, you know, if you are, some of the areas, you know, you're basically part of the structural integrity of the building also needed to be addressed. So it was an earthquake issue originally, I believe. In order to get into the improvements and rectifying the building from that perspective, you would have to get into the insides of the building where you may have also uncovered some of the asbestos costs.
Two more questions. In light of the fact of what you've just said, was the company that we engaged to do the analysis of the asbestos, did they not test in that height area?
Yeah, no, they absolutely did, and they absolutely found, and we basically packaged what they found in that area as part of their tender. So what we're looking at with the additional costs are actually areas that they couldn't get to. So that was behind concrete walls, underneath the roofing iron, against the parapet basically. So very, very difficult to get into, and it's not until you start pulling the building down it comes up.
Right, and so we had pulled the building down to the point where we got access.
So we've done invasive pre-demolition survey work, which did a lot of cutting and removing of parts of the building.
Right.
The way that the building is, I mean, you've got concrete kind of, you know, slabs, and it's some of the slabs and some of the areas they have formwork that they built in the 60s that they wrapped the asbestos in. It's not until you get underneath and you start actually getting into it. Yep.
Right, so why wouldn't have they done that invasive work?
They did do the invasive work, and what unfortunately what we're all dealing with here is a really, really unique situation in that the guys that have seen buildings like this in the industry have said, well, you know, we've done all the survey work, actually we've found stuff that we've never encountered before. You've done your due diligence, it's just really unlucky.
Right. Final question. So is it fair to characterise this as a blowout in what was originally estimated?
It is fair to say that the costs have increased from what was originally estimated, yes.
And is it fair to say as a result of the blowout, that the second phase means we're going to get, and the community is going to get, a whole lot less than what we had hoped and purported.
Unfortunately, yes, Councillor Ewan.
Thank you.
Mangai Oli?
Thanks, Just for the second question. Just with regards, if there is asbestos in the basement, assuming that once that's removed, it's safe, then that becomes a play space, right?
So everything we're doing with asbestos removal is with safety and future use of the site in mind, Councillor Oli.
Right. Thank you. Thanks.
Maria, so can you remind me again, before all of this happened, what was the budget for stage 2?
When we sought approval through the Finance Committee, 2.7 million was brought forward for stage 1.
Yeah.
And that left 1.465 for stage 2.
So that drawing on attachment 1 costs 1.4.
We, as indicated the last time I spoke to you at Finance Committee, we did think we were going to have a close look at what we could deliver of the concept plan for the budget. So we didn't guarantee you would get the whole concept plan at that point. So that was known.
All right. And so if this goes through, so we'll have around 500,000 remaining.
So if we use all our contingencies, you'll have 510,000 left. If we don't use our contingencies, you'll have nearly $1 million. So,
And you mentioned to someone that you will come back to us before stage 2 begins. Is that the process now?
So once we can identify the final cost for the demolition, we'll come back to you and let you know what the remaining budget is and what can be achieved for that. We just can't put a pin in it at the moment because we need to have that contingency comfort for further fines.
And can you tell me, just off the top of your head, have we decided on what Sarah raised in terms of the CBD play space in the long-term plan? So we know there's a play space going somewhere in the central city. What budget is allocated for that?
So we've got some work to do there because Councillor Sarah's motion in the squeezed program means we have to rephase, hence why we'll be coming back to you in September with that work done.
All right. And so how does that timing work with this timing?
So my understanding is
if it's going anywhere there.
The big chunk of funding, if you like, for the development of a play space in the CBD was in year 2. So it's not too long after we would get a green space here this summer and we could roll into the planning.
But in terms of when does stage 1 end? Will it be before September or?
So stage 1, the current timelines, we're anticipating 15th of August will be the new end date for stage 1.
Okay.
By then we'll be well into year 1 of the LTP and we will have an approved play program to deliver.
Yeah.
And
are there cost savings that could be achieved if the CBD play, if we did get to the point where we go, this is where we want to see something happen, could we save costs by doing it at the same time?
I'd suggest probably not. There's a different discipline from a contractor perspective, and we already have a really efficient model for delivering play spaces and a contractor, multi-year contract who delivers and has a good track record of delivering for us in that space.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Mark.
Thanks, Chair Kesh. Might be out of scope, so through you, just tell me to pull my head in if required. Yeah, are there opportunities to partner with the private sector around development in that area so that it's not just a fait accompli as it's just dead and buried? Can we go to them and say, do you want to sponsor a picnic table or a tree or something?
Absolutely, Councillor Mark, and I wouldn't describe it as dead and buried. I mean, I would describe the site as ready for development at the time when funding becomes available, and if that funding comes from external partners, well and good.
Thanks.
Doing
Yeah.
that or not yet?
That
The
was my
focus at this
supplementary
point
question.
in time has been understanding what we can deliver and what our budget is left. You'll appreciate when you're working with other funders, they're always very keen to know what skin you've got in the game. So, so that has been our focus. We can,
Okay.
Yeah, we'll look at how we can bring some life to that.
Councillor Emma, or was that? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just echoing. Maria had said earlier that there would be a staff action response to my question about philanthropic funding or commercial partnerships. So I think that will be looked at. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Amy's nodding. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, no more questions. Thank you. I am happy to move unless someone else would like to. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Mark. Thank you. I think I can sum it up by saying that we're all pretty disappointed with where we've got to with this project. Acknowledge that it is unfortunate. No one could have guessed what would have been uncovered when demolition began. So it is very unfortunate. I do hope that we can get to what our vision is for that area, and whether it be through philanthropic or private sector funding, whether it is a place-based, I mean, those are all conversations still to be had. But I do really hope that we can do more than just green grass with nothing else on there. Councillor, Mark, did you want to say anything? Councillor Ewan.
I think, Chair, you are right. This is very disappointing. Council constantly tries to ensure its reputation within the community as one of transparency and accuracy, and a blowout of worst case scenario $1 million, best case scenario $500,000 on an already controversial decision is not helpful. That, in addition to a 3.5-month delay, again erodes confidence that the community has in Council's ability to accurately project. And I think if you also take in mind the unfortunate mistakes in the report, adds again a level of frustration. I don't know, Madam Chair, if I totally agree with your comment that this couldn't have been projected or has come as some surprise. I would have felt, in light of the fact that our own analysis had sort of said there is asbestos, it's a fragmented construction that goes back a very long time, should have rung all sorts of warning bells for us. I'm mindful that in the last 10 years we've had significant blowouts on other projects, again to do with asbestos, and we had been assured as a result of those that we would have learnt more and spent more in the analysis to get it right. And yet again, we found ourselves having spent $2,000 of analysis and having, in the best case scenario, cost us $500,000, worst case $1 million. And maybe we should have spent a little bit more in getting some real invasive analysis up front. So I remain frustrated, and the community remains, one assumes, a little disappointed.
Thank you. Mangai Oli?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Kish. Pragmatic recommendation to finish the demolition. I managed Founders in 2010. It's a unique building. full of nooks and crannies and additions and amendments and add-ons. One hand, not surprised. There's the surprises behind concrete walls. Too surprised at the lightness of the initial survey. However, it is what it is, and hopefully that this recommendation gives staff the headroom to complete the job and end up with a space that's usable at the end, albeit not at the level that was originally anticipated.
We'll go online to Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair Kesh. The public are not going to get what Council consulted on, which was a $2 million playground. Instead, we're left with grass and an old fountain for $400,000, assuming nothing else has been missed. This is within my area of expertise, having designed and project managed larger demolition and construction work. I disagree with the statement in point 26 that these costs would have likely impacted any decision for Founders Theatre, including a renewal. The report refers to asbestos under concrete slabs, under roofing skins, between concrete wall cavities. Asbestos is allowed to be left in place if encapsulated, because it is asbestos dust from removal that is dangerous. What I see is another $1 million that could have influenced the decision to retain the founders. And if I recall correctly, Tony did say demolition would be around $3 million. I think they got their figures right. The council didn't. Thanks.
Dean?
Oh, is that me?
You are Maxine.
Kia ora. Thank you. It didn't come through clearly on my headphones, sorry. Look, I share the disappointment of some of our other councillors with regard to having to transfer funds from the whole of the project into the demolition. It's really disappointing to have to do that, but completely necessary. And I completely understand the need to be able to do that really safely for workers and for people who will use the site into the future. We want to make sure that we're providing safe and enjoyable spaces. Meanwhile, the new park, however, which disappointingly includes a car park instead of the much desired full park experience, will not be fulfilling the promise that we have made to our community, and again a disappointment. It reminds me of Jodi Mitchell's song, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. So all I can really hope for is that there's some other funding left in the contingency that we've made that can add to that $4/500,000, and it can be a little more beautiful. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anna?
Yeah, thank you. I guess from my perspective, I just want to thank the staff for a pragmatic way forward. I wouldn't describe this as a budget blowout, but a clever reworking of a staged budget to achieve a green space in the middle of our city, which will be well used. And I think, as Maxine said, the car park isn't ideal, but it's actually going to help us in terms of potentially activating that space, which we're really committed to doing. It will help with some of the accessibility. So we were unlucky, but we have been lucky in our contingencies and our ability to rework a budget to get to a result that isn't ideal, but I don't think it's terrible either. I think a green space there will be well used, and I know that we've got all the abilities to look at further possibilities and potentials for that area. So I see it as still a lot of hope in this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Paula?
Thank you. Well, safety of contractors and the public in regards to asbestos has to be our top priority. No doubt about it. Health and Safety 101 there. I'm disappointed, of course, with the park outcomes. I look around this room and just by the energy I can tell that everybody in fact is disappointed by the park outcomes, and I'm disappointed that the fountain is the last man standing, because I don't think that's going to be the kind of enhancement of the green space that we were looking for. I think we need to continue to find ways to do better in that space. Hopefully the contingencies will deliver. Hopefully some further cost efficiencies will come our way. And we should invest every penny back into that green space. I'm strongly of the view that while there is a need for green space for the value of green space, grass, trees, whatever, that's part of it. In this place, we know what the Hamiltonians wanted through the West Town Belt consultation, the strategy. And they wanted enhanced space where they could hang out with their friends and family, enjoy some entertainment, have a picnic, have a play. And, you know, that's becoming increasingly more important as we develop inner city living. It's become more and more important. So I'm open to maybe a portion of the parking revenue that's collected could be, as we have done in other places, we could direct it to some further park improvement in a phased way. That might be helpful. I'm just desperately looking for ways to find more input to that park. And meanwhile, I'm going to be just a little bit glum for a while about what we've ended up with.
Councillor Sarah?
Thank you, Chair. I think that the finding of additional asbestos in places which couldn't be or weren't reached through invasive tests and weren't anticipated highlights just how risky the redevelopment of the Founders Theatre would have been. And I think there's no doubt that if that council had gone with that option, we would be sitting here having to make decisions about supporting that project or finding, you know, that I have no doubt that that project would have come across major difficulties with asbestos and its budget and funding. So, yeah, either way, I think this would have been a problem. While it's disappointing to not have the full park space development, I think we still get a green space in the centre of our city. We also have the opportunity potentially for path connections through that to connect local communities into the central city. We've got the opportunity with play space funding to actually develop that area with play space, and a fountain is, I think fountains are an excellent component of a play space, and you can see that in Garden Place. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. You know, as Mayor Paula said, safety does come first, and these projects do tend to throw up some, I guess, unexpected costs. And actually, when you look at the fact that the Wellington Town Hall, when they renovated that, went from 32 million to 320, this is not so bad. Yeah, so thank you to the staff for all of your work on this. I'll be supporting it today.
Thank you. I think Mayor Paula said what I was thinking, safety first, and the safety of the workers, which is what Councillor Maxine alluded to as well. It is really unfortunate, and I'm sure that the staff working on this project are just as frustrated as we are. And I know, you know, everyone just wants to see this project completed, to be honest, and it just keeps on giving. So The importance of contingencies has been highlighted. Not enough contingency in this case. What we're seeing, it is unexpected, it's unprecedented. We've heard that from the experts and from the project manager. So, you know, are there learnings we take from this? Probably. Should we have spent more on the pre-demolition workup? Maybe. But it is what it is. And like Councillor Sarah, I choose to look at this as an opportunity. It is smack bang in the centre of our city, and we have to look at what can we do within the funding envelope that we have. So I'm looking forward to that September conversation and just making something out of this going forward. Thank you. So we shall go to the vote with a show of hands, please. All those in favour?
And those dissenting? The motion is carried unanimously. Dissenting, Emma, sorry?
Emma, were you for or against? For.
But the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I was trying to find my hand in my.
All good. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you, everyone.